Yeah, man. Good segment.
I thought that was great. I thought it was great. You're young, you're trying to figure out self. You can't master self yet, but you're figuring it out.
Right.
Once you figure it out to a certain extent, it's almost simultaneously happening. You're dealing with the world, and you're dealing with how the world sees you, your presence in the world. And you're doing that also while you're trying to figure out self, right? And then, so once you figure out self in the world, then you try to figure out who you want to deal with for the rest of your life. And then you make family.
Right.
When you make family is when you start to realize that you don't really have as much control as you thought you had. You need to lean on something bigger than yourself in order to figure this out. And that's what God did.
You said it better than I can say it.
You're welcome.
Good segment.
I thought that was great. I thought it was great. I know you was disappointed.
We lost a piece.
We lost an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah. But
I feel like it was more refined when we came back. Like, it was a lot of around talk in that hour and 20 minutes.
I liked it though. I think the organic initial conversation.
Yeah.
It has a different feel to it, but
it does.
I think we caught a lot of it back.
Yeah, I think we got a lot of it back.
So
I think it was still an hour. We got back like an hour.
We got back like an hour?
Yeah, because I think we did. Because we spent a lot on temperament.
We spent a lot of time on temperament.
Yeah, so I think we got a lot of it back. We did good. But
next one.
What's pro-action? So I know I just want a little taste next time.
So, all right. So you know the bedrock, and then we come out of the bedrock. So it's kind of like that first layer is the bedrock. Pro-action, just a little bit of it is, what do we do when we come out of the bedrock? It's deep, man, because it connects with why we do what we do and why it's important. It's understanding. It's ultimately understanding.
Priest and prophet. I already know that's deep.
Yeah. We're going to get into it though, man.
That's deep.
Good stuff.
But I was, like I told you, I was thinking, so when I was driving, I was thinking about obligation and family. Remember we were talking about that?
Yes.
I feel like there's no more obligation to family anymore. Like, wide consensus. I don't want to say everybody, but wide consensus. There's no obligation to family. So there's no, like, remember they used to say, oh, blood is thicker than water. I don't think that's true anymore. It doesn't hold true.
That's crazy.
Because, like, now I think people have more friends than family. They're like actual family that they communicate with. And I think that's a problem, in our community nowadays, because as a people, I keep saying as a people, I don't think, I gotta watch that sometimes, because I feel like even that is an old concept, like us moving forward as a people. I feel like that's a very old concept.
Now, if we're gonna start talking like that, we have camps of people,
right,
who are partitioned by their alliances,
right,
and allegiances. Title for another podcast to come: Alliances and Allegiances.
Mm-hmm.
Where we really only gravitate towards segments of pockets,
right,
of people who stand in the same ideology that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And is there really a consciousness that can bring us all together and glue us in a single mindset? Is there something that can galvanize people to find unity? Is there something that will be an attractive force that helps us harness collective power? Does it really exist? I don't know that it does. Now, if it's not, then why are we here? Because there are other ways that we can progress and move forward and build. I think we have to rebuild our consciousness in a way that we start to reset the principles that we live by. That's why I'm passionate about this work.
Right.
I think we have to reset the principles that we live by, because the fact is we cannot go and round up the posse.
But that's also why I feel obligation to family has to be one of the principles eventually, after we deal with self. Because you have to deal with self first. But, well, God first. Always gotta say that. God is first. But after you deal with God, you deal with self. After you deal with self, you gotta deal with family. And I think you have to have an obligation to your family. And I mean, just like you're obligated to go to work, you know what I'm saying, in order to make money, you're obligated to your family to make sure. So make sure that
God, self, family, and
world.
That's
my structure. That's my purpose almost. That's my purpose. Like, when I think about what's my purpose of being here, it's to serve God, be the best self, be the best family man that I could be, and then give to the world. Like, that's pretty much, I think that covers it.
Interesting.
I'm
thinking about that. I'm thinking that through. And it's interesting. I have an idea about it, but it's not one that's developed. It's not. I'm processing what you're saying for the first time.
Yeah.
And the quadrinity of life principles. And I'm thinking the way that it seems to play out for us in life. The way that it seems to play out for us in life is that self comes first. Hear me out.
No, I understand.
After self, we give to the world, doing what we do. After the world, we try and create family. And then after family, we try and find God. That's how it works out. Now, again, I get what you're saying, and I believe that in terms of an order of importance, or maybe an order of structure.
Yeah.
God, self, family, world, for sure. But maybe that's how it should be arranged when we come into our best awareness.
Yeah.
But the way that it actually is, self, world, family, and then God.
I agree with this. I agree with the self, world, family. I feel that God is always there, even if you acknowledge him or not.
Fair.
And
but we're talking about a person's orientation.
Right. But then I also think that God comes in a perspective in different parts in that three parts. So with the self, world, and family, I think God comes into play. Like, if you want to talk about playing out, it comes into play in between. It doesn't have to come at the end. It could come in between self and world. It can come in between world and family. Your understanding of God, but I don't think that it automatically comes.
It definitely might be a growing awareness, right? Because we don't just boom and we're there. But in terms of what is taking up the most of our attention in a given moment, right? And so I think maybe God is the smallest part when self is there. When self is there, you actually crowd out God.
No, I can understand.
Right? When the world is there, probably the same thing. When family is there, you probably start to move God more into a central focus, and then ultimately you have to recognize God's
I can see
sovereignty.
That. I can see that. I can see that's how it played out in my life. That it makes sense though, because when you're young, you're trying to figure out self. You can't master self yet, but you're figuring it out.
Right.
Once you figure it out to a certain extent, it's almost simultaneously happening. You're dealing with the world, and you're dealing with how the world sees you, your presence in the world. And you're doing that also while you're trying to figure out self, right? And then, so once you figure out self in the world, then you try to figure out who you want to deal with for the rest of your life, and then you make family.
Right.
when you make family is when you start to realize that you don't really have as much control as you thought you had. You need to lean on something bigger than yourself in order to figure this out, and that's where God comes
You
in.
said it better than I can say it.
You're welcome.